There we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
Got it.
So Bob, go ahead and unmute yourself. I muted you from this end. The microphone right underneath the picture. In the black area, there's a microphone. Put your cursor under the picture. And you'll see a microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go.
When I moved, I must have hit the button.
Okay, look, you were talking about flooding. I spoke to somebody yesterday, I don't remember who it was, but he was one of the original radio operators at Thuong Thoi. And he claimed that he hijacked a radio van. It was flying overhead on a helicopter. He got it to put it on the berm on the riverside of the camp. And what he didn't know was that when you guys were there, Martin, that berm started to sink. And there were a lot of people who went through a lot of trouble trying to save the camp. And finally, they had to abandon it and move to Chilin. Okay, so
I don't know. I was,
Bob, you were saying something?
yes? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I went back a year later, flying bird dogs. And I popped in the camp up there. The whole configuration of the camp seemed to have changed from the time I was there. That was 1969. So I don't know what happened, but I did hear that, after I left, there was a lot of flooding and, I'm sure it changed the configuration of everything there.
Before we get back into Thuong Thoi, was there anybody that was there earlier at Anlong? Reuben?
No, my first trip was in 1963. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. First trip was in 63 out of Okinawa. If I remember correctly, it was Detachment 113. The team leader was Captain Fisher. XO was Lieutenant Blair. Master Sergeant Johansson was the team sergeant. And Toshi was the intel guy. Thurman Ramsey was the heavy weapons and I was light weapons. So that was 63 to 64. My second trip was in 66, 67. At that time, I went down to, first I went down to a team that I believe was 415 along a big canal and everything was flooded at the time. We went out on operations on airboats and shortly thereafter I got a call back to Canto and then the executive officer was Texas Sam and he appointed me to put together what they call a mobile guerrilla company. We went to Fuqua Island to train. We trained there for about 2 months and then got deployed to the Seven Mountains area around Chilan. We went on an operation, but the people that had been recruited were all Wahao. The Wahao didn't want to be up in the mountains and they quit once we were in operations up there. We were then ordered to come down. We came down the mountain and that was a bitch, to tell you the truth. And we were surrounded by the Mike 4, who at the time was commanded by, that time, Major, what the hell was his name? Later he was convicted of murdering his wife, Marichek.
George Marchek.
Marichek. And we put all the troops aboard caraboos and took them back home, disarmed them, left them in nothing but their shorts, and came back. And when I came back to Canto, I was assigned to what, if I remember correctly, was A-432 in Tocha. At the time, Lieutenant Henry Cook was my executive officer, and then later on, the captain came in. I don't remember his name. He took over the other team. We had 2 A-teams there. And the executive officer of that other team was Lieutenant Brian Collins, who later on, in an operation down in the Delta, got his arm and leg blown off. Later became the executive officer, or in California, the governor of California. He became a lawyer, went to Santa Clara University, became a lawyer.
This is where I think where you were on that trip with BT Collins.
No. We were in just below Hatien in Tocha.
Okay, then we've got some confusion on that.
That's not the
on
right
my
team.
part.
I think, yeah, the team was in Tocha, just below Hatien, right off the coast. That was the Mobile Guerrilla Company. From there, one team went down, I think around Makwa, and we went back up in the mountains because the Mike Force from Natran was coming down to parachute. It's at the base of one of the mountains, which, if I remember correctly, was Nui Toro. They jumped in, and we went up in operations into that area. We made a contact. At that time, I just got Master Sergeant Kittleson as my team sergeant. We went on operations with Kittleson, Henry Cook, and some of the other people from the Mike Force. We operated up there for about 10 days. We made one contact. Kittleson got wounded on the nose. It was either a fragment from a rock behind from which we were firing, or a piece of shrapnel that broke off of the round that hit between us. And after that, we went back down. I went back down to Tocha, and about 3 or 4 weeks later, I got a message to send into Canto, and I became the assistant chief at Canto. I stayed there until it was time to rotate back out in October of 1967. That's about it for me.
Okay. Is there anybody else prior to
Yeah, let me say something. I'm getting a lot of extraneous noise, and it's making it hard to understand. If
Bob?
people who aren't speaking are on mute, it will help everyone out there.
When some noise comes up, I get a yellow box around the person who's speaking.
Okay, good.
I've got an echo on me. I'm hearing an echo on me. I don't know where the echo is coming from.
I'm hearing echoes almost on regardless of who speaks. It may be my system.
Has anybody got a telephone connection or multiple connection here?
Yeah, I'll move mine.
If you've got two computers at the same time, that will give you feedback.
Okay. All right, I turned my other fan off and I moved my phone. I hope I'm not the culprit.
Well, was your phone wasn't on the computer? You're not connected here two ways. That's what causes the feedback.
No, my phone's not connected.
Gary Mead lost video.
Gary?
I lost my video.
I see you.
I see a black screen.
I can see you fine.
Okay. That'll be fine though.
but there still is that echo, and I'm not really sure where it's coming from. Let's just try to go through it. Tell you what, why don't we all mute except for the person who wants to speak, and turn yourself on. You know how to use the mute button?
You need help? Aaron?
Yeah, where's my mute button?
Put your cursor down in the black area below the picture, and there's a microphone.
He does, oh, there we go.
I'm good. No, I just lost the picture.
Oh, are you on an iPad?
Yes,
Yes?
I can see you now. I'm fine.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you. And good thing you've got some assistants over there.
That's right. She's my IT person.
All right.
What do
Mike,
they say? Behind every great man, there's a great woman.
That's for sure.
Mike, I suspect there's something with the iPad. Have you got an iPad and a computer running at the same time?
I don't.
Oh, I
Mike
have,
Shad,
Oh, you have an iPad?
I'll turn it
I
off.
got you
Okay.
muted here, so you gotta unmute Mike Shad. Because when I muted you, the feedback stopped right away. There you are. Okay, now you can talk again.
Okay.
All right. When I muted you, the feedback stopped, and now it stopped.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Who's speaking?
Gary Mead. My
I can-
computer now says,
I can hear you fine.
okay, because my computer says mute. That's okay. I'll leave it the way it is.
No, it was Mike Shad. Now you just muted yourself.
Wait.
Okay. All right. Let me continue here. And Martin, I think you were speaking. I don't hear any noise right now. So if you unmute yourself, continue with what you were saying.
I would like to know when everyone else was there. As I mentioned, I was there from September 68 to September 69. And Bob, did you come there right after I left? Yeah, you're on mute, Bob, so you have to come off mute.
Was that addressing me?
Yeah, Bob was there before you were there.
Oh, you were here.
Yeah, I was there
before me. And Steve, what were your dates?
April 6, April 67.
Steve, what were your dates? I know you didn't overlap.
I was up and boy, there's a lot of noise. Sounds like it's me that's talking. I was up in 2 Corps, 67, 68 at the sea detective. So
Got it.
I'm doing all the teams in Vietnam in these days.
Got it.
Gary Mead lost his video. Okay.
I can hear you and see you fine. I don't know what your problem is. What was your time?
Gary Mead's time?
Yeah.
69.
And where were you, Gary?
I was at Thoi, and I was at Baswai. Most of my time was at Thoi.
You were the last advisor or last person.
Yeah, we
last
flooded.
commander.
Yeah, we flooded it. It flooded out. We deserted it. We did. The whole place was underwater. The team house, everything.
Huh.
Charles Trevino, what about your time?
Uh, I was there from September 69 to October of 70.
Were you there when they flooded out?
Yep. And in fact, I was one of the persons that caused it.
You were
Who was this?
No, the person who caused it was earlier, and he admitted it yesterday. He didn't know it was what he'd done.
Well, it was what happened was that myself and Sergeant Olvera were shooting rounds into the Mekong Delta, and we started to take water in, and that was kind of a hairy experience. And the camp was flooding. It was taking like about 10,000 gallons of water an hour or something like that. And we had to evacuate the camp, but we had a 1.5 deuce and we hooked it up. And that was a hairy experience because I almost drowned with this helicopter. I've never seen one of those. It looks like a grasshopper, but it was giant, and it was like a giant crane. But the force from the draft kept me underwater when it blew me off the top of the 1.5 deuce, and that was quite an experience. And then we ended up going to Chilang. Did anybody ever hear from a Major Face?
Yes, I did. This is Gary Mead. At one point, I was told I was the commanding officer of Thuong Toi. Major Face had some problems when all the troops, all of the Vietnamese troops were moved from Thuong Toi over to the B team. And these guys came in, broke into the I don't know what you call it, the talk house, and they stole all the funds, and Major Face was blamed for that and lost his command. He was the B team commander at that point. He was a good guy though.
Well,
let me go over here a little bit on the history, a long time. About when they came into Thuong Toi, whoever was the radio operator over there yesterday said that he saw some cranes going overhead carrying radio vans, and they didn't seem to know what they were going to do with them. He managed to get one to drop the van and leave it on the berm at Thuong Toi on the riverside. And while he was there, nothing happened that concerned him about the positioning of those vans.
Those vans were Navy. They had a duffel bag team set up in the vans. There were all kinds of equipment. So we used to plant all these little fake turds and grass and everything all across the border. And we would fire artillery when we got some noise from those things. These guys sat into those bunkers there, just waited until they heard some people walking down a trail.
In any event, the berm started to sink. So MacV got involved, and the 31st Engineers got involved, and then finally MacV trying to find something to do about it. And they ended up getting some pile drivers from Japan.
That's right. That's right.
And they brought the pile drivers down. They put a lot of effort into saving the camp by building up this seawall. And after they'd done it and sat back and congratulated themselves on how they had defeated the Mekong River,
It sank.
the camp continued to sink. So they sent divers down to look. And apparently, even though the seawall had been successfully implanted, the Mekong River is now burrowing its way behind the seawall under the camp.
Right.
That's when you ultimately had to evacuate the camp. So, you know, the idea of trying to compete with the Mekong River, no matter how good your engineering skills are, you're playing second fiddle.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's the story that I got on what happened. But yesterday I met the guy who said he got the van to put in there.
Hmm.
When you got Martin and Gary, you were both. Did you both make the transition to Chilang and Charles Trevino?
This is Gary Mead. I made the trip over there. All the people in the A team, I think they went a lot of different directions. I only saw one or two people over there. We got sent on these little missions out in the middle of along the border there to Colonel Bayshore, I think it was then. It's a helicopter ran out of gas or something. They landed it on a berm out in the rice paddies. And myself and about 3 other people sat over there with the helicopter to make sure nobody stole it for a long time. And then they came and got me because I hadn't had an R&R and I only had about 30 days left in country. So they were starting to panic. So they sent a helicopter, brought me back to, I don't know where, and then they couldn't get me back to, I finally got to Canton. They couldn't get me back to Saigon. I ended up, I guess it was Air America or something, some guy in a civilian clothes and had, you know, looks like a pilot of some kind, flew me back into Saigon. And I made it on my R&R. And when I got back, a lot of things changed. They, I guess I was there not too long, and they sent me up with, I don't know who they were. It was some kind of it was a Vietnamese army. It was myself and some new guy that just came in from the States. And I was supposed to be, they gave me a radio, and we went to the top of Nui Koto, and we started blowing up the top of that best we could to make some kind of a fortification. And I was in a hole, and the hole wasn't deep enough, and I caught a rock on the side of my shoulder and side of my head. And about, well, 3 weeks later, they medevaced me back to the States.
At Chilang, at that point, they were basically turning the whole camp over to a training center for Cambodians.
That's right. There was a major Weetak. He was not Special Forces.
He was engineer for 31st Engineers, Slayback.
Was he? He's the one that was in control of the camp. The rest of us were just doing what we told. There was a person who had previously been at Thuong Toi, and he probably should be on your list someplace because I think he'd been there 3 or 4 years before I was there. He was at the time, I believe he was a major, and I signed everything over to him as far as our weapons. We had a safe. There was a little bit of money from we had a bar set up over there, and everybody we're supposed to split the money. When I got back, the camp was already, I had gone on the R&R. They finally, the safe was brought back. I didn't know who to give it to. I just gave it to this major and told him, anybody comes by and wants the money, I just give it to him. I don't know what else to do. I took it up.
Paul Leary?
What was the name?
Paul Leary.
It could have been. I don't know. I don't
Leary
remember.
took over the B detachment, that was there as a training center commander, and he was killed in January trying to reinforce a training mission that had gone very badly.
Jeez.
And actually, he got killed by friendly fire from some of the helicopters that were supporting him. But so there really wasn't much left of the Thuong Thoi camp.
No, I couldn't find hardly anybody. I know I flew out there on a chopper. That whole metal wall just collapsed and buckled, and it was a mess. I mean, the whole Mekong just flooded into the camp, and the camp was built on nothing really. I mean, they had a berm there to supposed to keep the water out, but in the dry season it was okay. But if it wasn't for the berms they built around the camp, it would have been flooded every day during the wet season.
Charles, what was your time over there?
My recollection is that I was there, well, not too long, and the camp sunk. And the only person I can remember from Camp Thuong Thoi is Sergeant Rudolph Oliveira.
Oliveira.
Yeah. And that was it. And then he and I went, when the camp was terminated, we went to Chilang.
Yeah, Chilang's the B team.
Yeah, we went there. And then he wasn't there very long, and then he went home. And I just remember that in April of it was Easter Sunday, 1970, in Chilang, the camp was attacked, and they did quite a bit of damage. They blew up a lot of helicopters, and I think there were 4 or 5 105 howitzers. They got destroyed, and I got blown up.
Jeez.
And I don't know, I was with a captain in a mortar pit. I don't know who he was, but both of us were kind of in a daze. We were knocked out. Luckily for us, the Viet Cong that threw the grenade into the mortar pit was a concussion grenade. It wasn't a fragmentary. So that kind of saved our life. And then the camp was like, it was all confused. And in the morning, because both myself and the captain were both knocked out, but they found us and they talked to us in the morning, and we were still in shock. I don't know what the captain did, but I had to medevac myself out of the B team, out of Chilang. I was sitting on the tarmac, and it was, I don't know where anyone was. And then I went to 4th Army Field Hospital, and they had surgery on my eye, and that was it. They discharged me right there, and then they ended up going back to Chilang.
Are you a radio operator at Chilang?
Yeah.
43?
Well, that was when my 05B4S. I was a radio operator there. And then I went, had some fun over there because they had the Thuong Thoi where they had the airboats.
Yes.
And I remember that we were fooling around with those darn things, and we mounted a machine gun on the airboat. And when we took it down the Mekong, and we were testing it because the boats were made out of fiberglass, and the vibration from the machine gun ripped the mount of the machine gun,
Jeez.
and the damn thing sunk. But we got it back to shore. But I don't remember who it was, but they gave us a good ass chewing. It was one of those things. The gentleman that I'm looking at right now with the blue shirt, who is that?
That's me.
Well, am I waving to you?
I don't see him.
You see a name on it.
I don't have any, I'm Gary Mead. At the time I was,
Oh, Gary Mead.
yeah, at the
Gary
time.
Mead.
Let me
Were
see.
you an officer?
Yeah, I was at that time, I was a first lieutenant. And I don't know, at some point I was the commanding officer for Thoi because nobody else was around, I guess. But like I say, I'd been and gone, and they shipped me back over there to try to, I guess, save it or something. I had been, they had moved me over to Baswai, and then they took me back out of there to go back to Thoi. So, and I don't know, whatever happened to Baswai, they were in a mess there for a while. They were getting shot at all the time.
Did you
Anybody there?
know a Lieutenant Tannenbaum?
The name sounds very familiar, but I about a year ago, I had some serious problems. At this point, they think it was a stroke. I have lost a lot of memory, and a lot of memory I have not lost. So I'm not doing well with names, but I guess I could go look at my little book someplace. But the Tannenbaum sounds familiar, but I really can't say.
Well, the reason I brought him up was that he got killed.
Oh, geez.
And there was a Sergeant Fritz.
He was killed on that April attack at the B-43.
Yeah.
April.
He was the assistant S3 for B-43, and I believe he was killed April 9th of 1970.
That sounds about right. That was kind of a really crazy time over there.
Was he the guy in the mortar pit with you?
Say again?
Was he the guy in the mortar pit with you?
No. The one that was in the mortar pit with me, I did not know at all. His rank, he was a captain. And I was in the mortar pit by myself. And I don't know where he came from.
Could have been Otto Neely.
He just jumped in the pit with me, and we were both with the 60mm mortar just shooting away, and then we had one of those gunships, because that was I don't know, I think April 15th or something like that. It was a Sunday, and there was one big. In the morning, there was like about 22 or 23 sappers that were all dead in the barbed wire and everything, and it was a pretty bad fight, and that's all I can remember from Chile. And then I don't know when or where, but I don't know. Then we went into Cambodia. It was in 1970. And we went with the Mountain Yards. Do you recollect any of that, Gary?
Yes and no. But I do know that the attack on Chilang, the guy that he was also a lieutenant then. He was, because we lost our captain at Thuong Toi, it was Lieutenant Duster. I don't know whether you remember him. He was on his way home when they attacked, and he was with the bird dog pilot. I'm trying to think of his name. He got shot up pretty bad. The guy that was the pilot of the bird dog pilot, and he got sent home. He was shot up really bad. And Duster got out all right, Lieutenant Duster. I remember going into our incursion supposedly, and again, they kept moving me around. They put me. There's an all Vietnamese camp down the canal south of where the B team was. I'm trying to think of the name of that. They sent me down there to coordinate for air and stuff when they went into Cambodia. And this camp was right on the Vente Canal, right on the Cambodian border. And we made a couple of little forays and across into there. But a lot of the stuff I think was done by other people. I don't know who really got deep into Cambodia down in that area.
Well,
That was quite an experience over there, going into Cambodia, and then I had to laugh a little bit, Gary, because I had my whole tour in Vietnam. I never got R&R. I came from 2 Corps, B-20 Mike Force. I was scheduled to go to CCN, and me and Sergeant Salisbury, we got in a little trouble there in the Trang, and they decided not to send us to CCN, but they sent him to 1st Corps, and they sent me to 4 Corps, and that's when they sent me down to Chilang.
Right.
And
But
so
when you were there, Chilang was in the process too of being turned over. I mean, Major Face was there when you were there. Like I say, he got relieved I think it was because when Thuong Toi closed, all of the troops, all these CIDG troops were sent over to his camp. They all moved in there, and you can imagine, 300-400 people there, half of them with their families go in there, and they broke into the I guess talk house and stole all the money that was being used to pay people, the Vietnamese people. And Major Face was relieved of his duty because of that, unfairly. But things were just so disorganized. Nobody knew what was going on. Like I say, they were moving me around from one place to the next to fill in for somebody that was leaving, and they weren't getting any replacements. And it was, you didn't know from day one what was going to happen.
you're talking about Major Faith. How are you spelling that?
Faist.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, he was from Boston. That's
Bob he was a good guy, kind of short, but he was good. But I mean, think about moving an A-team, especially the one I had over in Thuong Toi. Those guys were, before I even got there, they were called the Thuong Toi thieves. They would steal more stuff from us, other Vietnamese, and they were terrible. And then you put them into a B-team situation with their families trying to fit in there. I mean, it was just chaos. And then they were also moving in the MACV people. that were going to be taken over. It was most disorganized piece of whatever I've ever seen in my life.
Were they Vietnamese or Vietnamese Cambodians?
Most of them were Vietnamese. Most of them were Vietnamese. We had just a very few Cambodians. I think most of the Cambodians, Boswai had a group of Cambodians, but at Tung Toi, they were mostly the locals, right there along the Mekong River.
Look, on that April 9th thing, I've got a couple of awards for people, but I'm not really sure exactly who was doing what to who. I have a Ralph Jennison, who's a Spec 4. He's supposed to be assigned to 442, which would have been the Tow Chow team. So I don't think he should be even up there at Chi Lang, but he got a Silver Star on that day. You mentioned Reed Johnson was a sergeant. He was with an A team in 4 Corps on that day and got an air medal. Does it Reed Johnson's name ring a bell to anybody?
No.
No.
John McAfee was the PSYOPs officer at the B team. He's okay. Now you mentioned Adolfo Olvera. On that day, where was he assigned?
Oliveira, let's see, he got in trouble. I don't know, because he was
there on April 9th. I don't know, but I don't know whether he was the B team or he was on an A team.
Well, he had been on my A team, but he got moved to the B team. And as far as I know, that's where he finished up, but I don't really know.
But in April, he was at the B team?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure he was.
Okay. B-42. And there's Jimmy Romero, who I think was in C4. He was an SFC.
No, I think originally he was at Tung Toi, though. The name sounds very familiar.
Okay. And there's Tannenbaum.
No.
Killed on that day. And he was the B team, definitely.
Right.
Zach was the commander of the B team. So those are the people who got awards on that particular day that I know about.
How about Lieutenant Duster? Anything on him?
How are you spelling it?
I think it's D-U-S-T-E-R, I believe.
Duster, okay.
He when I came into Tung Toi, within a few weeks, our CO, Captain Palmer, he got some kind of a weird disease, Vietnamese disease. He went home. Duster became the CO. I was the XO. And then Duster, he was, timed out, and he was in the B team when they got hit, and I was still at Tung Toi, and people were leaving so fast at that point. I don't know.
He's still around. I sent him an email, invited him to the meeting, but he's not here.
Okay.
He is Joseph R. He goes by Rodney, and he lives in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's where he was from. So he didn't travel far after he left.
No, in fact, I think he has a family business in Pennsylvania, which is basically a funeral home.
Wow.
So
Well, that's a good business to be in right now, I guess.
people are doing it every day.
Yeah. People are dying to get in there, right?
Amen.
Gary, you have quite a sense of humor.
I have to tell you, I really thought, back in September, October, I don't remember any of that. I was gone. My wife said, you know, there was something wrong with me. I was just out of it. And they took me up to the University of South Florida. They said, well, you probably have Alzheimer's. And then a month later, they go, well, you don't have Alzheimer's because you know your name, you know everything that's going on, and you can, you know, walk and talk and a little bit. So they said you had a stroke. So they tested me for a stroke, and they said, well, you didn't have a stroke. And then the other doctor said, that's okay. He said, half the time they don't know if you had a stroke or not. So you probably had a stroke, because I lost a lot of memory there for about 3 months. So I'm up and about, and I'm moving about. So I'm happy to still be around.
Wow. How old are you, Gary?
I'm 77. I'll be 78 in a month or so.
Wow. You look good. You look
I
good.
do. I still can't see anybody. All I see is the black screen. Well, I think I'm better than I am. You know, I'd still like to get out and do things, but my body doesn't want to let me. But I am getting better. I was diagnosed with what's the disease I have? Alzheimer's. Well, no. Hey, Lee.
Dementia.
Anyway, it's a thing.
Diabetes?
No, yeah, it should be diabetes. Hold on a second. Lee. What disease do I have? The one I still have.
Oh, myasthenia gravis?
I have myasthenia gravis.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning of my downfall. Anyway, it's very debilitating. You just have no energy, nothing. And
Hey, Gary, you can't be blamed for not remembering that name.
well, anyway, they started giving me prednisone for a year. I was taking 6 of those a day. It ate my bones. I can hardly walk now. I've had like 5 different, my bones in my back just crumble. Not crumble, but they break. I've had all these operations where they're, you know, gluing me back together and everything. And they finally started giving me this stuff that's supposed to make my bones strong again. So it looks like, you know, I'm not taking the, so if anybody ever offers you any of those drugs, be very careful. It'll kill you before anything else will.
Bob, you and Reuben seem to have been together at the same time. You may not recognize it, but by my estimate, April of '67 to June of '67, you were in the same place at the same time. Reuben?
Stephen, the tour was October of '66 to October of '67. The second half of the tour, I was the assistant 3 at Canto.
Now, April of '67 to June of '67.
No, I wasn't there in April of '67.
You were CO.
April of '67, yes. No, but I was going by October of '67. October the 6th is when I left.
April to June, you and Bob Clayton were in the same camp. You were the CO, and he was the capo officer.
I don't think we were in the same camp.
If we were, you sure look different now.
And I may have a problem
I do
with
too.
the camp you were at. I know where Bob was, but I believe he was the CO.
Okay, let me try and clear it up. My second tour was October of '66 to October of '67. Initially, I went to an 8 camp along a canal. I think it was 415. And then I got called back to train the mobile guerrilla company, and we went to Fuqua, where we trained for 2 months. Deployed to Nui, Kai in the Seven Mountains area, which at the base of it was the Chiland camp, but I was never at the Chiland camp. At the time that I saw the Chiland camp, it was run by a bunch of legs. And
Right.
then we went on the operation. They set us in the camp when we came down because we smelled too bad. Later on, I guess Chiland became SF camp. I don't know about that. Had nothing to do with that.
On that 67 tour, where did you end up? What was the last 5 months of that tour, or 3 months of that tour for you? You were the
Before
CO
I
lieutenant.
was in Toshao. I was in Toshao as the commander of one of the two mobile guerrilla companies.
From
The
April,
executive officer was Henry Cook.
April of 67.
Yes. Let me
Okay.
show you a picture. Can you
Okay.
see that picture? That's me on this side, and that's BT Collins, and that's the captain that came and took over his detachment. Can you see the picture?
Well, BT Collins was at Thuong at the time. I knew BT Collins, or of him.
Right. He was the executive officer of the second mobile guerrilla company. And the
Okay.
guy in the middle was the commander of that. And I was the commander of the other company. BT went on an operation in Makwa over in the Delta, and he got his leg and his hand blown off. He later became the chief of staff for the California governor.
Yeah, no, he had quite a career in California.
Right. His sister wrote a book called Outrageous Hero.
Right.
I'm
They've been
afraid-
having problems with it.
I'm afraid if I,
I know. It was the whole thing.
yeah.
I'm thinking that you, okay, I'm gonna put you on 403 until when I get to doing that one.
Yeah.
And
That
we'll see
was
what happens. 'Cause I
403.
think that's where you were.
And I think I had 402. I had a stroke 8 years ago, so I forget some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
want to keep.
we all are forgetful whether we had a stroke or not.
That's okay.
I think I lost it.
Yeah, I did. I think they lost it tonight.
No, I don't know how to get back.
Oh, it's not-
What's your password?
No,
Oh,
let's see
they're
if
still
we can-
there. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just to clarify a couple of things, Stephen. My first tour was with an A-team out of Okinawa, and I was a sergeant.
I got that one in good shape. I think the only question I have was what you spent the last couple of months on the 67 tour. And it looks like it was not at Thuong or Anlong, but it was rather,
No, I was a Kanto as the assistant 3.
I got that before there, right?
And before that, a couple of things happened that I'll go ahead and clear up. After the first operation on Nui Kai with a mobile guerrilla company, and we got taken off of that operation because the Wahao didn't want to be up in the mountain. They said they were lowland people. They didn't want to be up on the mountain. Major Marichek, who at the time was a captain and had the mic for us, surrounded the base of the mountain. We brought the troops down and we sent them back home. Then I went to Kanto and I refused to go out to Toshao simply because of the fact of who was commanding the mobile guerrilla company at the time. It was a guy by the name of Bruchet, who I had no respect for. I'll say that loud and clear. His team leader was, I don't remember. Oh, Lad. And Lad got shot up on Nui Koto and got evacuated. I think the executive officer at the time was Henry Cook. But I didn't want to work for Bruchet and refused to go out to the camp. Eventually, Major Dallas, Texas Sam, told me, Ruben, you got to go out to the camp. At that time, Bruchet had been relieved of that command, or he left that. Okay, I see what you're putting up now.
Here's Henry Cook.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Henry Cook. Henry Cook right there. And then Sergeant Kittleson came in as the team sergeant. Kittleson was a hell of a man. Had a lot of respect for him.
Who was the team sergeant?
Say again, please.
Who was the team sergeant you just said?
The team sergeant in the during when I went back out to the camp, Kittleson. They wrote a book about him called Raider. In that book, he talks about the lieutenant that commanded the team, and they name him Ochoa. They say a Cuban by the name of Ochoa. I'm that Cuban, but the name is Garcia.
Ochoa. Ochoa. And you followed Ochoa?
I'm sorry, say what?
You followed Ochoa?
No. The book Raider
Oh, yeah.
names a Cuban lieutenant whose they name him Ochoa, but that wasn't Ochoa. It was me, Garcia. It's just that in the book they used the name Ochoa.
Okay.
Now, there was another book written by B.T. Collins's sister. In that book, they used the right name, Ruben Garcia. Now, Bruchet was the one who took over the Mobile Guerrilla Company while we were on an operation. But when I came back, I wouldn't go to work for him. I had no respect for that man.
Well, I've heard that one from other people as well. But I show Hendricks over here. Here's Bruchet. And then
Hendricks is the guy. Let me show you. That's Hendricks right there in the middle. That's
okay.
Captain Hendricks. Right there in the middle with a boonie hat. That's me to his other side. And Brian is the one who with his hands on his hips.
Okay, so where do you fit in here?
Okay. I formed the Mobile Guerrilla Company. We trained him in Fuqua. But for some reason, at that time, I don't even appear on any of the records. But I don't care about that. I really don't give a shit about any of that. The bottom line is that Bruchet took it over. Then there was an operation on Nui Koto where Sergeant Lane got a shot up. And when we came back, there was a bunch of pictures made available. It showed people as being killed. The reality was that it were fake pictures. They were not KIAs. They were fake pictures. And when I went back out, and when I got sent to Toshao, Bruchet was no longer there.
Okay, here's B.T. Collins on 402, the sister company.
Yeah. And I was in the other team. I had the other Mobile Guerrilla Company. I trained the original Mobile Guerrilla Company in Fuqua. There was another team in Fuqua, which was run by a captain by the name of Maples.
Bob Top.
Had nothing to do with that team. I don't know who was on that team.
Okay. Well, let's put that one off for a bit, and I'll worry about that in a couple of weeks when I get down to the B40 people. Let's try to stay. I guess I should stay here on B40 on 432.
Any chance, this is Gary Mead, any chance you can put my visual, I can't, my screen is black.
I'm not controlling your screen. I don't know what's happened to your screen.
Okay.
You're on a PC, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me try something.
There really should be no way for your screen to disappear.
Huh. I wonder what it did.
Now,
Maybe it's the computer.
well, I can see you and I can hear you, and so can everybody else.
Gary, it might be that you turned off your video.
Hey, Gary,
Yes,
down the bottom of the screen, you got stop video. You got a front camera on your computer?
I don't know. I don't see anything about video though.
Down by the mute button, or just to the right, you should have a arrow up, stop video. Are you with me, Steve?
I'm looking for it.
We won't see him. His problem, he can't see himself.
All right, you may not have your front camera on your computer.
It was working before. It just seemed to disappear.
From our point of view, you're working fine. I can see you.
Okay, so the camera's working.
I hear you. Let me
Well,
open it here.
I can hear everybody. That'll be fine.
Okay. The earlier camp here online. If you go up the river, Thuong Thoi is going to be around that bend.
Yeah, it was right on a bend.
So they moved from here to get closer to the border. And I think Thuong Thoi had an outpost that was even closer to the border for a while.
We did have, when I was there, they had a couple of outposts. One was on the, right on the border, but it was only to get by water, you had to go down to that little town and come back up the canal. The river. There's a river in the back.
So
Yeah, I believe we had an outpost about couple hundred meters south of the border.
there for a while there was an A camp closer to the border.
That one little place when I was there, it was right on the canal or the river there that that is the border.
Now
As a
that's
matter
the
of fact,
one right here.
and there was a NVA or I'm not sure who, it could have been Cambodian, but they had a big tower there had to be NVA, sitting up there with a machine gun, looking right down at us, and we're up back on the other side looking back at him. And that's the way it was the whole time I was there. There were no Americans. I think there was about 12 Vietnamese.
I can't remember what camp was up here.
I can't see, so.
Stephen, can I ask you a favor? Can you show the area of Tho Chau and Ha Tien on your map?
Wait here. Well, this map sheet is not very good. For some reason, I lost the water cookies for Ha Tien. So, Tho Chau was right over here. little airstrip and a hill up here. And then the waterway that turned into the canal is up here, and Hatien was over here.
Yeah, Toshao was across the river from Hatien. We had to take a boat to go to Hatien.
Yeah, this is a break over here. Water's coming. And this goes up to where the canal starts. But I don't have this map sheet here. So that's the problem.
Sorry. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Hope to catch up with you soon.
All right, Bob disappeared. Okay. Well, I don't really have anything from the middle of the time. Charles, you were talking about the duffel bag program. And a couple of people have commented on the Navy having little radar systems, which probably were duffel bag, but they weren't allowed to stick their nose into it at various camps. Is that what was going on? Were you allowed to stick your nose into the Navy van?
No, not really. Just had some experience with some Navy SEALs testing out some equipment for listening posts, but that was kind of a vague idea, and I didn't know too much about it, and it was kind of hush hush. Sherman, did you know a Rance Potter?
Yes. After Vietnam, but until he passed away, we were in communication often.
Yeah, about it's been about 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good man. Man.
You were talking about the duffel bag. We had the Navy people in our camp that ran a duffel bag team, and we did go on a few missions with them, putting in all those little fake turds and little pieces of things that look like a plastic. They were plastic, but they look like grass growing, and they would, put coordinates on where they were, and when they would listen to somebody going by, they would call in artillery, or we would do the artillery, or run a gunship in there. Their place also, I guess, went down in the water. It was a pretty big, good sized bunker, but they had all kinds of pretty fancy equipment in there. And all we did was go out there and give them some cover when they were planning their, I'm not sure what they really were, but they were just, there's a listening device of some kind. But we planted it all over our area. But they were all Navy.
Well, the fifth group, when they closed up and went home, they directed somebody in each corps area to write a history of their corps area, the C team. And so they had some Spec 4, Spec 5 in each corps area going through the filing cabinets, looking at all the old after action reports and writing something up. The older the circumstances were, the less information was there. But the people did a good job of trying to put together that history. They're not trained historians by any means. But the guy in 4 Corps had a couple of senior NCOs advising him who had been there multiple times and really knew the area and the history pretty well. And his history of 4 Corps is about as long as all the other 3 Corps put together. For a long time, I never found them. The original ones I found in Carlisle Barracks, but I couldn't find 4 Corps, and I never knew, or I didn't know why at the time. I finally did figure out what happened, and it turns out that 4 Corps was classified differently. It was top secret instead of secret, so it wasn't downgraded automatically. And finally, they looked it over and downgraded it. But the primary reason for that was any mention of Cambodia. There was a lengthy piece on the Cambodian politics and Cambodian politics as it applied to Vietnam. And there were also a couple of pieces on duffel bag as well. I don't think they contributed to the classification, but the Cambodian business did. State Department was very sensitive way past the end of the Vietnam War about any reference to Cambodia. So
I wonder why at Thuong Thoi, we had during the dry season, the field in back of us was used as a landing area, but C-7s were coming in there and dropping off material source. They would land, and occasionally, probably 5 times when I was there, they would send in Air America would come in with an airplane, land there, and we were told to take him up to some place on the border and drop him off. They're all CIA people. And they met up with somebody else, I don't know who. And so they were definitely involved in going up into that area. It was just a little bit north of the Mekong, but it was definitely in that area. And all we had to do was transport and buy the guy a drink. And that was about it.
this was after April of 70. It was after the Cambodian incursion began.
That I don't know. I don't think so. I think this was before. This was before the incursion. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure it was before.
Well, you wouldn't have been at Thuong Thoi before.
Well, when did we go into Cambodia? It was a lot later than that, wasn't it?
About June
June.
of 70.
Well, maybe we're still sending these guys up there. Each time they came in, it was a different guy except for once. He doubled up. Sometimes we took them to the border. Other times we just went upriver and dropped. There was a little town right up there on the border in the Mekong. I can't remember the name. And we would haul him up there and drop him off. And then he would meet some other American, dressed up in their khaki, whatever. I mean, they didn't have uniforms or anything, but we dropped them off. And then I don't know how we got word to pick them up, but we got the call to go back up and pick him up. And then the plane would come in. It was Air America's plane, and they'd come back in and pick him up. So something was going on up there.
Well, the timing is pretty important. Because I have a thesis or theory that so far I haven't been able to disprove. And there are a lot of people who have talked about the American foreknowledge of the coup in Cambodia. Hold on for a minute. Call back. And every time I try to find somebody who has made that statement, it's always been hearsay. Somebody else told them that.
Well,
I look at the,
I know what happened, but there's a guy who lives in our development. He claims that he used to be sent up there to have meetings. Let me get his name, and you can call him because he still lives here.
get his name, yeah.
Continue on. I'll butt in as soon as I get the book.
All right, but the State Department history shows correspondence. Kissinger, for example, is totally surprised at what happened. He and an Australian who was pretty active in Vietnam, Ted Sarong, are exchanging notes and ideas about what's going on. And they say, this sounds like something that Sihanouk was cooked up. And I'm pretty sure that was the case, because everybody that I've talked to who had any contact with Lon Nol says Lon Nol wouldn't take a dump without Sihanouk's permission. Not likely that he would overthrow them. And in the MACV command history in 1970, or for 1970, so it's in 1971, the deputy director of Chords for MACV makes a talk and says things went very well, very differently because of the very unexpected events in Cambodia. And that might be a non-essential thing, except the deputy director for Chords, who is not named on the page that quotes him. But if you look in the index as to who that guy was, that was Bill Colby. Colby says anything was unexpected, he didn't know about it. If he didn't know about it, then nobody knew about it.
Yeah. Well, at least you got something to write on. I got this guy's.
Yeah.
I got this guy's telephone number and his name. You
Go.
want it?
Go.
Ray Humphrey. HUMPHREY. Okay, his telephone number is 978
978
852.
852.
Right. 9558.
And what's his claim to fame?
His claim to fame was when he was asking me where I was in Vietnam. He says, I think I took a couple of trips up there. You may have given me a ride up to the border. He's not saying anything else.
He's not saying anything else. Well,
now I don't know that where he went or if he would say anything, but you never know. He's he can tell a few stories, but so kind of hard to tell.
well, it's important having the dates involved. If it's after the coup took place, I think April 30th, or maybe it was March 30th, April 30th, I think it was, of 70. American troops moved to Cambodia until June.
I'm pretty sure it was in the 70s, but I don't really know for sure.
Well, we're talking about 70s, but we're talking before April or after April.
Yeah, that I don't know.
That's where it gets confusing.
See, we had Thuong Toi had a little, in the dry season, we had a little I say airport, we had a little landing field. It was just dirt. But, the C-7s would come in there. That's the biggest airplane would land. And a lot of people either that, would be on those airplanes sometimes and hop off, and we would take them up to the border. But most of the time they came in by helicopter. So I don't know. We don't know what was going on. Maybe they were just going out to lay on the beach someplace. I don't know what the deal was. So, but we transported different people, different places. But we didn't go across the border. At least if we knew it.
Well, then that sounds like it's earlier, because after April it was a lot more lax about who could
Right.
go across the border and who couldn't.
Well, I would find out, because supposedly he was involved there for a long time in Vietnam. So he may be in another place too. And maybe he'll talk, maybe he won't. I don't know.
Well, let's find out what he's got here. Let's see if I got anything.
Yeah, I got all kinds of military people. I got the most famous general in the country right now in our neighborhood. So
Who's that?
the guy that's in a lot of trouble right now.
Millie?
I'm sorry?
Millie? Active duty or retired?
Oh, he's retired. He retired, and then he got in trouble with Trump, and he's getting himself, I think, huh?
Michael Flynn?
Yeah, he lives here.
Michael Flynn, yeah.
His two brothers live here too. His two brothers moved in long before he did, and he's been here for about a year. I hear he's making a lot of trips around different places, but I've never seen him. I see the other part of the family. They're in different neighborhoods within the community, so don't know what's going on. Of course, that's probably as private as anything else. I don't want to get involved in that, so. But Humphrey, you could probably talk to, and he'll tell you one way or the other what he can say.
Okay, let's see if we got Humphrey over here. I guess when you do a search, view, find, Humph. I've got Harry Humphreys. That's one. Nope, that's the only one I've got over here in this database.
Let me see.
And your guy was Ray.
I believe so, yeah.
Humphrey, not Humphreys. But this guy, 68, 69, he was the Navy PRU advisor.
Okay. Well, this guy talks a good show, but I don't know. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, that's true.
But he is a nice guy, so.
Well, let's see what happens.
When we see him in the bar, he always wants to buy me a drink. So.
Gentlemen, I have to leave.
Well, I think
Nice to know that there's still some of us around.
well, I'm surprised at how few showed up here, because I probably sent out emails to about 30 people. And I know that of those 30 of those people, for example, the original team that came out there okay, that is the original team. Niccolo is around. Woronchuk is around. I think a couple of the others and Corcoran were all sent out invitations here, and they're still alive. But that was the first team that went out to Anlong PCS. So we've got that's just 3 people that didn't show up. That's too bad.
Did you have a Jeff Carmody? He was in a camp north of Thuong Toi. I don't remember the name.
What was the name you
His name is Carmody. It was an A-team north. He's closer over to the Pearspeak, but it wasn't at the Pearspeak. It's north of where Thuong Toi was.
Let's see.
Well, north and a little bit back to the east.
There was at 4:15. There was a Jeffrey Carmody.
That's him.
He passed away in '94 for some reason.
You're kidding.
At
He and
his
I were
young-
very,
he was
we were very,
25. So that was young.
yeah, he and I were fairly close at Fort Bragg. And we came over here and he got put in one camp and I got put in another one. So, that's too bad.
All right, well, I'm going to end the recording here.
Okay, it was really good talking to you.